Summer in Amity Park was always an incredible thing. Beautiful, warm, and sunny, it was a wonderful time to be alive. And for Danny Phantom, things were only getting better. With school out of the way, Sam finally with him, and no ghost in sight for a long while, it was looking to be the great start of an even greater summer. As Danny walked down the streets, though, he noticed something twinkling in the distance. Getting closer, Danny bent down to inspect the source of the twinkling, and found something. Though it was hard to see, it appeared to be a small, metal object of some kind. Oddly, it was painted a dark green color, yet still seemed to have the luster of brass or gold. What the heck, Danny whispered, as he picked it up. Bringing it into the light, he saw that it was an Arabian oil lamp, albeit one that was green-colored instead of any metal he knew about. That's odd. What's this doing here? Taking a closer look at it, Danny noticed something, an inscription. What? What's that say? Rubbing it a bit, he tried to see if he could find anything else on the mysterious item. As his hand rubbed over the lamp, a strange thing happened. It started to glow in another section of Amity Park. A ghost was going about her daily business. That being twisting the wishes of pathetic humans who were unlucky enough to be in her presence. Her latest victim being a young woman who, wishing she could help her husband a bit more, found herself locked with a lamp, awaiting her lover to become her new master. Smirking, Desiree muttered, "Be careful what you wish for, my dear." Flying off, Desiree reflected on her own choices. A part of her regretted her actions. After all, the poor maiden she was with just wanted to find ways to make her beloved happy. A simple slip of the tongue in the presence of the wrong person had now made her a magical slave. Still, Desiree could not help but feel a twinge of pity for the poor woman. She just was a loving spouse trying to make her beloved feel better. Should she suffer magical slavery as a result? For a moment, Desiree considered her actions and thought about changing the poor woman back, but shook her head. That woman was a representation of all of Desiree's troubles, a beautiful figure who had a home, a lover, and all her dreams fulfilled, while the genie herself was left completely alone in her own purgatory. So what, if ill fate had made the woman into another genie? Why should she be so lucky, while Desiree was so cursed? As she brooded over her fate, she suddenly felt something that she had nearly forgotten. A feeling that she was being summoned, her eyes widening in realization. Desiree could only whisper, "Is it possible?" As the feeling continued, joy began to sprout in her heart. A beaming grin growing on her face, the green genie rushed off to another part of the town. After a few moments, the lamp finally stopped glowing. With it came an uncomfortable feeling about the object. Could it belong to one of the ghosts he fought before? Who could it be? And what did it just do? Before Danny could wrestle with any of the questions, a new event snapped him out of his thoughts. All around him, green smoke began to make its way in front of the ghost boy. Already knowing who was coming, Danny got into a fighting stance, ready to face his foe. Just before he transformed, though, something unexpected happened. "Greetings, Master," a familiar voice spoke out from the smoke. Hesitating for a minute, Danny witnessed a strange sight. Desiree in front of him, her arms above her head, with a broad smile on her face. In a split second, she bowed before the young man, continuing, "I'm Desiree the genie. And with my lamp in your possession, I'm now your eternal slave. Wait." What? Looking up, the ghost genie had a look of surprise before she grinned a bit. And what luck I have. A handsome boy such as yourself as my new owner? Fate has finally smiled upon me, getting a better look, her face contorted into confusion once more. Actually, have we met before? You look familiar. No, actually, Danny said a bit too fast, not thinking. I might have heard about you before, but you know how word gets around fast. With a nervous chuckle. He prayed that would work at first. Desiree only continued to stare in confusion, before Ruby's eyes lightened up. Oh, now I remember. Here it goes, Danny thought, as he prepared to transform. You're Danny, the friend of those kids Tucker and Sam. Two of my most memorable grants. The shock of her answer froze Danny for a second, before he replied, Wait, how do you know them? Other than hearing their names. Desiree replied with a cocked eyebrow and a mischievous smile. Sighing, Danny responded, I get it. Ask a stupid question and all that. Giggling, Desiree approached the young man, wrapping her tail around him slightly, saying, I must say, I'm pleasantly surprised. I had hoped my new master would be nice and cute, and I'm excited to be proven right. A small blush came upon Danny's face as the green ghost called him cute, before he realized something. What, master? What do you mean by that? With the question, Desiree's eyes fell to the ground. It is a long story, master. A tale of woe and regret, of pain and misery. I actually got the drop on that. As surprise crossed over Desiree's face, he continued, Madame Bobazita told about how you got exiled from your home and died of a broken heart. And wait, died? She said I died? Yet, but isn't that obvious? I mean, you can't be a ghost if you aren't alive. You think I'm a ghost? She responded again, confused. What, you're not? Groaning, Desiree whispered, I knew that old witch couldn't remember a proper story. Shaking her head, she continued, No, master, my story is a bit more complicated than that. With a wave of her hand, Desiree's iconic red-pink smoke filled the area. At first, Danny flinched at the sight, but calmed down upon seeing that nothing was happening to him. After a few minutes, he saw what appeared to be the interior of a large palace, with a now human Desiree dancing. Danny couldn't help but blush a bit at the look, which made the green genie girl grin a bit, as Madame Bobazita said, I was once a harem girl to a powerful and kind-hearted sultan. As she spoke, the sultan approached the human Desiree and took her to a balcony. So valued was I, that my master offered to grant me anything. No matter how big. With those words, however, Desiree's head hung low. Sadly, that's when things took a turn for the worst for me. With that, a young woman in regal clothes, the sultan's wife, approached. Believing that the sultan was having an affair with me, the sultana banished me from the realm. With only their mouths moving, the sultana angrily ordered Desiree away, leaving the harem girl in tears, as she ran away from her home. As she was off, the mist faded away, with only Desiree looking down in regret. The sultan was kind enough to ensure that I was able to get safe travels to another destination. Of course, as time went on, I got lost and it led me to her. With a wave of her hand again, Danny saw the human Desiree again, this time nervously entering in what appeared to be some great ruins. The young harem girl slowly walked around the decaying stone foundries, looking frightened by all that she was seeing, before coming across an artifact, a gold lamp, right in the center of the temple. Going up to it, Desiree slowly rubbed the lamp, which glowed and shot out a crimson smoke, revealing a beautiful woman wearing what appeared to be a red latex bra and a pair of golden cuffs. As the woman collected herself, she stared down at the harem girl, giving a small smile that held a hidden malice. She introduced herself as Jasmine and proclaimed that, since I had found her, she would grant me any wishes I had. Not thinking at all, I wished that I would be given the power to lay my revenge on the Sultana for sending me away. The actions of Desiree the human and Jasmine the genie acted out as Desiree narrated her story, making many motions in anger and Jasmine calmly listening, calculating every move. What I did expect was Jasmine's response to my gift, as Desiree made her wish. Jasmine gave a wicked smirk and sent a bolt of magic energy at the human. Light pulsated throughout her form as Desiree was lifted up, her skin beginning to take on a new color, and her eyes and clothes shifting coloration as well. Eventually, it stopped and Desiree was the same as before. In one moment, Jasmine had transformed me into a genie, like herself. With that, Desiree grew a wicked grin and flew off back to the palace. With my newfound powers and my heart in pain, I raced off back to the palace. Unaware of what fate I had bestowed for myself. In a few brief flashes, Danny got the rest of the story, Desiree appearing to a terrified Sultan and Sultana, the latter of which Desiree transformed into a genie herself, who was quickly sucked into a ring. When I returned, my first action was to take revenge on the monster who sent me away. I genified the Sultana, trapping her in the ring that I intended to give to my master. As Desiree knelt before the Sultan, the ring in palm and her smiling warmly, she waited for his response. Sadly, what happened had terrified and broken the Sultan's heart. The Sultan looked away, while the past Desiree herself took on a new look of shock and pain. Even if his wife was heavily flawed, he could not bear to think the idea of her becoming a genie. Unfortunately, genifications cannot be reversed, so, after giving him the information he needed to keep her safe, I left. Now night. The past genie looked sadly back at the palace, before flying away. With that, the smoke went away, leaving only Danny and Desiree. At the time, I thought that, since my wish was granted, then Jasmine either would have to grant me at least 2 more wishes. Barring that, I thought that I too would be trapped in my own lamp, seated next to my sister in eternal slavery, as we waited for someone to free us. But it was not meant to be. As a last cruel joke, Jasmine used her power to ensure that my lamp would not only be gone to a faraway land, but that it would change location every day. Meaning I was now without a home, a country, a master, or a purpose. And that's why you went around, granting people their wishes. Desiree nodded. Indeed. I thought it would help me to fill the void in my heart, as I continued to search for my home. Of course, as time went on and I saw so many people happy, while I was in pain, I began to become more and more bitter. But, Madame Bobazita, what does she have to do with this? When she was but a child, her family had the misfortune of coming across me. After hearing their wishes, I turned her father into an ogre, her brothers into trolls, and her mother and sisters into jinn as well. It was only her smarts that restored them. Well, some of them, at least, you seem to like to turn many girls into genies. I've been granting selfish tramps their wishes for millennia, Master Desiree answered more forcefully than she would have liked. They deserved it for so long, right? Anyway, Bobazita? Oh yes, she immediately calmed down. She vowed not to let me hurt anyone else, so she used her own magic to bind me to that bottle. Of course, we made some form of peace after she heard my story, but I doubt she ever forgave me, and then we got into the fair incident. Desiree nodded, though Danny still looked troubled. Still, there's one thing I don't get. If you aren't a ghost, how did the Fenton thermos work on you? I'm still a spirit of sorts, Master. That strange artifact most likely works on all spirits. Nodding, Danny put a hand to his chin, thinking of what to do now. As much as he hated to admit it, he basically had a beautiful, powerful slave all to himself. And she showed she had every intention to follow his every word. It was surreal, to be honest, seeing his interest. Desiree leaned down, hoping to show off her figure as much as possible, and replied, "So, Master, what do you wish to do with me?" Looking back at her, Danny smiled, as he drank in the sight of his new genie, stating, "I've got some ideas."